Give it a good yank, Father. There you go. How are you?
All right.
Are we?
This is what it looks like.
This is what it looks like. There it is. What do you think?
All right.
All right.
If that's my good side or not.
Well, let me see. Once you sit in, I'll be able to tell you.
You'll be able to tell me. Oh my God.
There we go. Yeah, there you go. The best way to open that door is to, unfortunately, the handle is, we lost it in the battle. And
So if any of the facts says...
you roll down the window and you just pop it open from there.
Oh, wow.
Thank you very much for agreeing to do this. This is an honor for me.
It's an honor for me, too.
Really? So, Father Lopes, the last name Lopes, is that Spanish?
Oh, no. It's,
No?
Portuguese.
Oh, it's Portuguese.
Azorean Portuguese.
Is that where your
Grandparents are from the Azores on my dad's side. My mom's French-Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And as a family, we lived on the other island. And the other island is not Tuckanuck.
Martha's Vineyard?
Yeah.
I guess that would be the only other one around here. And did you grew up there, Father?
Yeah, that's home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Grew up there, went to school there. And after high school, went off to...
How old were you?
Oh, gee. Well, it's kind of hard to tell when it actually occurred. It was more of an evolvement over a period of time, with different things happening. I had, the desire, I think, when I was fairly young, but not in an exact way, but it was just kind of floating around, and different events in my life, and some of the priests that were stationed on Martha's Vineyard when I was a kid growing up.
Okay.
I think were kinds of examples and were encouragement.
Right. So you were brought up Catholic.
Oh yes, yeah. Yes. Both of my parents are Catholic background.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably by end of my junior year in high school is when I mentioned to my folks that I had the interest, and then started preparing more directly some of my subjects in my senior year.
And I bet your parents were very happy to see you go to seminary school.
Yeah, they were very, very proud of that. And of course, the word didn't take long for the word to get out.
Yeah.
I got a couple of nicknames as a senior in high school.
Can you share those with us?
I got one good one. It's
okay.
Pope Lopes.
Pope Lopes. Oh, right.
Oh yeah, that's
right.
That's in the yearbook forever.
Right.
But I'm sure it won't have a result in that. But it was kind of a interesting time.
Well, I always think that someone that becomes a person of God has had an experience, that a life-changing experience at one time or another, that they can is there one single event that happened?
I can't really give you one of those.
Yeah, okay.
Really. That's why I say it kind of evolved. In '65, I was ordained in February of that year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I began work in the city of Fall River.
Oh, okay.
And spent 3 years there in a Portuguese parish, immigrant parish.
Do you speak Portuguese?
At the time, I didn't.
Okay.
In those days, the bishop kind of assigned us to parishes many times on the basis of our last name. Like myself being of Portuguese descent, to have us go to a Portuguese-speaking parish. Some of the guys who were French-Canadian, we had some parishes that had French-speaking people in the cities, and so they would go there. And then after 4 different parishes, I applied for hospital chaplaincy. And so I spent 8 years working full-time in 2 different hospitals, one in the city of Taunton, Morton Hospital, and then I spent 4 years in the Cape Cod Hospital in Hyannis.
How did you like being a chaplain?
I enjoyed that. Probably those were some of the most meaningful years for me, because it wasn't in a church atmosphere. It was meeting people at crisis moments in their lives.
No, absolutely.
You know, and families as well as patients, but then also to the staff. Spending a lot of time. The staff really, who were there all the time, almost became like a parish, because those people were there every day. And you got to know them and their families, and so it was very rewarding. But the one-to-one contact with people, the faith dimension in people's lives, it's amazing, really. It's very humbling.
And do you find that people's faith, it really shines when they're in a crisis situation? Is that the time when it really
I think it tests it. So you
really
find some that are able to fall back on a faith that enables them to work through those difficult moments, and then others that find it overwhelming. You know, and I find it very difficult.
Do they?
Yeah, some folks do. Yeah. And you know, I think it has a lot to do with the ongoing faith life of the person before they even come to that point where there's a life-threatening situation.
And you deal with that a lot.
Well, in that environment, you'd have it every day. You know, especially in the emergency room areas.
Right. Well, even here, though, right?
Well, you don't get it every day.
Not every day, but no. You see it a lot more than most ordinary people, because
I
you're
think
the man they have to turn to.
Sure. Yeah, I think all of us as clergy persons here, as everywhere, will meet those situations, and all of us, you know, in a moment, you know, you can get a call.
Yeah. And how do you like being here, Father?
Well, it's very similar to being home, which is Martha's Vineyard. It's a lot more difficult to get back and forth from.
But at the same time, you do have family still there, right? So you.
Oh yes, but I mean here it's because it's further away.
Yeah, right.
The isolation is different. It's much more difficult to work around. It's difficult for me to get over to visit from here. But I think that being assigned here certainly wasn't a new experience for me as far as being on an island and being by myself.
You are by yourself. That must be kind of tough sometimes.
Yeah, so it's different from most of the other assignments. It is.
Yeah, I would think so.
So
you don't have your peers and your, you know, people.
For support kinds of things, it is different. And I think over the last 6 or 7 years, it's been an opportunity for me to work on and appreciate not only loneliness, which is we all experience no matter who we are, but having it kind of move into a more positive framework, being maybe they name it as being alone rather than being necessarily lonely. I think aloneness helps me to maybe put into words the idea that being alone can be a very meaningful time.
Do you think it's important for people to be alone at times?
I think we all need that. And I think today there is so much that can occupy us. And there is the value of being alone with oneself and being able to use that time in a positive way for reflection, for discernment, whatever.
I haven't been down this road in a while, so I thought it would be kind of nice to. Will we have the honor of having you on the island for quite a while longer, or do you know if you're...
Well, no, that's kind of hard to tell. I think that it depends on what's happening in the other parts of the diocese, as well as what's happening here. I think that there's an opportunity for us every spring around this time. There are, the bishop lets us know through the personnel board that different parishes that might be open or different kinds of ministries that are available, so
Okay.
guys can apply for that. And also it's very easy for us to request to move or request to stay. In the last 6-7 years here, I've been asked on 2 different occasions to possibly go off to a different parish.
Oh, have you?
But I think that one of the reasons why I delayed that is because of the fact of working on the centennial of the church building and
Right, that's-
our renovations
that's right.
and all that. And wanting to see that kind of get off the ground and get started.
So do you feel that you need to pretty much stick with that and see it through?
Yeah, I think it would be kind of nice to be able to do that if
Yeah.
I can. Of course, the bishop is the one really who makes the decision, final decisions and all those things.
Now, I'm not a Catholic, Father, so maybe you could just tell me a little bit about the hierarchy of the church, and how
How it's set up?
Yeah, a little
How
bit.
they
Yeah,
operate.
I think a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, well, the
And it's-
Catholic Church is divided up into different areas which they call, we refer to as dioceses. In a diocese, every diocese would have a bishop in charge.
Right.
And the bishop would have the local clergy plus religious communities that assist the local clergy in staffing the parishes and also doing or staffing the different ministries that take place in the diocese, social service agencies, etc., hospitals, nursing homes. And the diocese itself has a pastoral council made up of lay people from all over the diocese and a finance council. Each of our parishes have the same, and these are consultative bodies to the bishop on the diocesan level and also on the local level as serve as consultants to the local pastor. And the bishop in each diocese is responsible then usually to different regions in the country. There's 12 regions. And each region has at least one bishop who is designated as a cardinal.
I
And
see.
these designated bishops who are cardinals would be the men throughout the world who would go to Rome at the time of an election for a new pope in the church. They would be the ones who would go to Rome to elect a new leader.
I see.
So that's basically the structure. So then, as we look at the priesthood, actually there are three orders within the priesthood. When we speak of the priesthood, we call it a sacrament, one of our sacraments, and it's called holy orders. And there are 3: deacon, and then priest, and then bishop. So those are the 3 different categories in what we refer to as holy orders.
So, what about the role of the church and the changing times that keep coming up, and some of the conflicts that the church faces from being a very conservative kind of entity to contemporizing? What do you believe? What do you think about
Opening
that?
up to...
Yeah, opening up.
Well, I think that certainly we have a long way to go as far as really opening up to both of those questions. But I think, like in many areas, there are a lot of things that we can do already, and yet we still aren't doing them. I think specifically in the area of the role of women in the church. Even with just the recent changes since the Vatican Council 30 years ago, there's many opportunities for women to be more involved in the sacraments and in leadership positions in the church. And there are still a lot of areas where this hasn't happened yet. I think that a lot of that, as I was speaking before about the role of the bishop in each area. A bishop really is the leadership. It sets the tone in each area, and some are more reluctant to move with some of the changes that are available.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I say
well, that's
that
because the Pope says.
Well,
right.
the Holy Father has opened the doors, but as far as the local areas throughout the world, I mean, moving into those areas, some of them are more reluctant than others. As I said, it has a lot to do with the local leadership. And so I think that the areas where already we've had some changes, which are great, you know, and inviting women to be involved in different ways with distributing the Eucharist, lecturing, reading, also being involved with in leadership positions in different areas in the church.
Mm-hmm.
Dioceses now having women involved in leadership positions like the chancellor, involved in the marriage tribunals.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's happening, but it's happening slowly.
Mm-hmm.
I think as far as clergy, there's nothing theologically that says a woman cannot be ordained. I think there's nothing that says theologically anywhere that a priest cannot be married. But I think both of those have such a strong tradition in the church, and we take a lot of our growth and
Mm-hmm.
efforts really not only from scripture but also from tradition, and so sometimes the traditional things that we've done are more difficult to re-examine and to open up than to look at the scriptures.
What seems to be the most frustrating part about human behavior in that you found being a priest?
The frustrating part?
The most frustrating part about doing what you do.
Well, I think it's kind of a hard one to answer. I think part of it is, the frustrating part might be that I or persons like myself don't always have an opportunity to do what I've just mentioned about explaining things to people in a time and in a way that they would be able to understand and be able to talk back and forth with. A lot of these issues aren't topics that you would preach about on a Sunday morning.
No, that's right.
Because that's not really that's not the environment for it. So as a result, in wanting to help people to understand, maybe to set up opportunities for that to happen, and people have many things to do, and therefore may not take the opportunity or to take advantage of that, and then continue to be confused about things, and then becoming involved themselves, and then by meeting that person later.
Is it because they have a lack of discipline? Is it, or is it? Do you think it's stemming from that, or is it?
I think that. I think most people, and maybe I'm being naive, but I assume that most people are wanting to live a responsible life and to do what is right. I think all of us have moments when we do the wrong thing for whatever reasons.
Right.
But I think that it's owning that and then beginning again that maybe a lot of folks don't do. Maybe they feel that they can't. And therefore, it's very easy to let some of those things go that you used as guides or principles for your life.
That's it.
And I think maybe discouragement, whatever might be part of it. But I really do think that most people want to be good people.
I agree.
And, you know.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. So I
No
think
doubt
that,
about it. There's a light in everybody.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
and I think that our role as clergy people, whatever denomination,
Right.
I think our role is to encourage people to hang in there. And if you do make a mistake, then to begin again. I mean, that's what it's all about. I think that's the faith journey for all of us. And to know that there is a God who forgives us, probably, not probably, but more so than maybe our brothers and sisters. So I think that today our culture, though, and our society, there are a lot of things that happen in our society that maybe perhaps because we don't have the principles or don't hang on to them, it's very easy to kind of go this way and go that way and take whatever's pleasant or good for the moment.
Yes.
And not look about, well, what's going to happen down the road. So that's a whole area that I think we have a responsibility to help our people with too.
I agree.
Not just the moment, but the ongoing.
Right. What pleases you the most, Father, about your work? Is it, I mean, I could assume it, but I'd rather hear you tell me what it is.
Well, I think it's a real joy to be able to be present to someone or for someone who is going through a difficult time in their lives, whether it be or whatever it might be, and also to enable persons to have a better understanding of our faith as they prepare for different steps in their faith journey. We just had a group of 24 ninth graders that were confirmed this past Saturday. And, you know, working with them over the last 2 years, myself and the teachers involved, many moments there where we have an opportunity to be present to them, to get to know them, to support them in their own faith journey. And it's not just because their mom and dad want them to do it, but hopefully they have an appreciation themselves for their own faith and to have a desire to want to deepen it and strengthen it as they grow. I think those moments are very special. To be present to people at moments of death in the family, weddings, persons prepare for the sacrament of marriage. Those one-to-one moments are can be very meaningful.
Right. And do you have any aspirations of furthering your duty as a clergy member, becoming, I mean, I know it's appointed, right? You have to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean as far as
like being
like
a
a bishop or
yeah.
whatever?
Yeah.
Well, I don't myself.
No.
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 I don't have that desire at all. I think the challenges that are present to me as a pastor, as a priest in a parish, are magnified certainly on the level of a diocese for a bishop. But no, I'm very comfortable right where I am. I think that as far as, just to go back a moment about talking about married clergy, I know I've had several men who went to school with me and after ordination decided to leave the active ministry in order to marry.
Oh yeah.
And
That happens.
wonderful guys, really.
That does happen, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. It's back in the
pretty-
60s and the 70s.
Yes.
I was ordained maybe with, there were about 85 in my class. And I would say at least probably a third have left since ordination. Yeah. And I think that
To get married, mostly.
yeah, many of them have. Some have not. Some have just left the active ministry and have not married.
Okay, right.
But I think majority of them have married, and I think that this is an area where recently the church has welcomed clergy from other denominations who wish to become Catholic clergy, and therefore have, after some training, have allowed them to come into ministry into the Catholic Church. And they're married and have families, and now are functioning along with celibate priests like myself. And I think there's a lot of discussion in the church today about looking at some of our own men who have left to be married, the possibility of some of them coming back into the church, becoming active as clergy, but as married clergy. That's a whole area that is really being written about and discussed.
Is that do you think
Is that a possibility? You
Is
know,
that a
for men to-
possibility though?
I don't know. But I think it's just another area where we have to begin looking at
Yes.
the situation. So if we are having married clergy come in from other faiths, what about looking at a little more closely our own clergy that have left as a result of wanting to marry? So I think it's a challenge to the church, and I think that married clergy certainly can function. But the role of celibacy in the church for us is just a very old tradition. Goes all the way back to probably the year 1000. And prior to that, though, there was no obligation for celibacy, and that kind of grew out of a tradition. Yeah.
Well, did you enjoy yourself?
We've been out and back.
It was very good, wasn't it? Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, sure.
I really enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah.
I think it was one of my better interviews.
Just getting started.
I know it. I'll just move up a little bit.
Okay, got it. Yep.
Okay, Father.
All right, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
It was a pleasure.
My pleasure as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
In your work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.